written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
We can go bring in a lot of money.
It would go year round.
I'm going to go ahead and get started. It is almost 3 o'clock by my watch, but 3 o'clock by this one. So we're going to just go ahead and get started. I didn't set an agenda because I wanted something that was just informal. We are recording this, so the audience or the viewers may not see the mass of crowds that we have at the tables. This is just a casual event to kind of hear from the directors. One of the things I wanted to hear from is the current directors, to see kind of what their view is, what their experiences are, and then if we've got any questions from that massive crowd that's out there, then we'll get started. So why don't we start with, we'll start at this end, since John at the other end is just as new as I am. So Jim, do you want to just introduce yourself and then give a little background about how you made the decision to run for the board of directors and input that you want to add?
I'm Jim Ruff. I moved here in June 3 years ago in the house on the 21st. And as I went around to the various centers, I kept seeing a flyer for wanted, dead or alive, board members. And I thought, anybody that's got that good a sense of humor, I would probably enjoy being on a board with them. So I ran that fall. I didn't get elected. But when we had 3 board members resign in January, I got appointed in March to fill one of those slots. And then I got elected that fall. And I've had, 15 plus years of board, being a director, being on boards for almost 20 years. I was on at least 6 at one time. So a lot of experience with it. And I thought, wow, this is going to be an easy job. Look at all the money they have. And you get in there, and the first month I'm here, it's like, we're not spending money on maintenance. What do you mean you're not spending money on? Well, I'm going to say something at the next meeting. You can't do that. And I said, well, I will. And I did. So I don't understand how we can have so many maintenance needs that are unmet when we got almost 20 million that we haven't spent. Who's the idiot that thought this was a good idea? And so that was my introduction. It went from, God, we've got all this, and everyone, what are you people doing? It made no sense to me. And we've cleaned up that act, and we're moving forward, and hopefully within the next 2 years, all the maintenance will be reasonably caught up, and we won't need to spend quite as much each year on maintenance as we are now, because we will have caught up, at least in theory. And so I've worked on bylaws since the day I got here, I think, and ended up being the head of it. The first year, I got the agendas made in board meetings to do the 5 things that the members wanted to vote on and weren't allowed to vote on in 21. So those got passed. And then the next year, did a review with about 20 to 30 other people helping along the way. And we got that done last December. And here we are again. I'm working on bylaws. So if you don't enjoy the merry-go-round, don't work on bylaws.
Thanks, Jim. And Director Preston Keiss.
Yeah, Preston Keiss. I first started coming here in the 90s because my parents rented and then bought a home here. And then when I retired from the Air Force in 2014, we moved here because both of our mothers lived here at the time, and so it was a good place to come and help take care of our mothers as they continue to age. I worked for 7 years after I arrived here. I went to a board meeting with my wife's family is kind of taking over Sun City. So she's got a lot of cousins that live in Sun City. And I went to a board meeting with one of the cousins, and the reactions of the board when people came up during the exchange just kind of horrified me. They were rolling eyes, and they were making faces and snide comments, and I just couldn't take it. I didn't go to any sort of RCSC function for probably another 4 or 5 years. I couldn't. After I finally stopped working, I went to a board meeting, and although a lot of the people that were on the board at that time were gone, it seemed to me that the board needed more of the ability to work at a board level as opposed to getting too far down into the weeds. And I thought I could help that, and probably haven't. But that got me interested. And of course, like anybody else who ever tells their friends they're gonna run for the board, the first response you get from everybody is, "You got to be kidding me." But I persevered, went through the board, and it's been a pretty good experience. There's ups and downs. I've enjoyed getting to enjoy most of the people, and starting in maybe halfway through 2014, the makeup of the board changed and improved. And I think we've just got better as a collegial organization to try and actually work and move things forward. Did I say 2014? 2024, thank you, sorry. It's been a long day. It's the third meeting in a row. One thing I didn't understand was how much time the job takes. And, but you get used to it, and for the good that you're hoping to provide residents, it takes a lot of the fatigue, or it helps understand that to make what the sacrifice and the time you're putting in worthwhile. Yeah.
Vice President Chris Nettersheim.
Hello, everybody. So we're an Air Force family. So we lived on Luke Air Force Base, and my in-laws moved down here in 1985 and bought a house on Andover. So that was our first exposure to Sun City, was in 1985, which in many ways it was still forming. Even though it had been here for a while, it was still coming to be what we know today. There was still pockets of differences that I didn't even recognize at the time because I didn't know everything that was going on here. So we were back and forth in and out of Sun City while we were stationed here. When we came back and we lived in Colorado and New Mexico, we would drive back and forth. So we had some interactions within Sun City. We saw some of the changes, not really always appreciating some of the changes, but we saw them. In 2012, my father-in-law passed away. And at that time, we made the decision to purchase the house on Andover from my husband's brother and sister. And we became property owners here. And I will be really honest and tell you, we became property owners here, not really understanding much of anything, other than that I read the CC&Rs and the bylaws and stuff like that, but not really understanding what it meant. We knew that we wanted to come to Arizona for retirement. My husband's an avid golfer, so we knew that Sun City gave him 8 golf courses, which he really liked the idea of. So in 2017, my husband decided to retire. We took a gap year in Texas to help my daughter get her master's degree by taking care of kids. I was still working. 2018, we became full-timers. We moved and sold the house in Andover and moved up onto Saraband, so we became full-timers. I really didn't understand the governance part of Sun City at that time, but in 2021, when the tech committee stood up and they were asking for volunteers for that committee, I sent my resume in because that's my field. IT is my field, and I was really interested in helping Sun City improve their IT infrastructure and all of their operations, because whenever we did come into a facility, I couldn't get any internet. So I was kind of like, okay, clearly we have some challenges. So I volunteered for the tech committee in 2021 when it was first formed. And I started learning from Kat Fimmel, who was the chair at the time, what the board was about, how we were governed, and I started getting more engaged. In 2024, I retired, and I had been thinking about running for the board prior to that, but the decision I made was because I was working 50 to 60 hours a week on projects at work, I didn't have the time nor the energy, to be honest, to give to board work. So it didn't feel like it was the right thing to do. I could have gone and run for the board, potentially got elected, and then wouldn't have been able to give it the due diligence that it required. So I decided to wait. In 2024, when I retired, I actually went up to Jim and said, hey, I'm thinking about running for the board next year. That would have been this year. What do I need to do? Who do I need to talk to? This was in March. And Jim says, funny you should say that. Would you be interested in taking up a spot on the board now? We have some vacancies. Would you be interested in interviewing? So I interviewed, and I was selected, and I was appointed in April of 2024. It was eye-opening. It was drinking from the fire hose. It was many, many, many things that I did not anticipate, and then a lot that I did. Because I've been on boards before, but this board, this community is, and you'll hear it every time people talk about Sun City, this community is unique. So it comes with its uniqueness. And we had some ups and downs last year. We had our peaks and valleys. I seriously considered not running for the board again for this year, but made the decision that we were so engaged in so many things, particularly the tech side of it, that I was really interested in continuing, so I ran for the board, and I was elected for 1 year.
And we gave her a raise.
He gave me a 1,000% raise. So I ran for the board, and I was elected for 1 year, and this year has been better. It has been much better. Starting towards the end of last year, we started to have more peaks than valleys, and when we do have our valleys, they're not as deep. I agree with the fact that the board gets along. We function well. We don't have groupthink. We don't have like everybody thinks the same thing. It's not that. It's just that we function well. We're respectful of each other. We discuss things. We debate things, but overall it works well. And I feel like I am actually contributing. I'm making a difference. So that is kind of the big part for me. If I'm sitting in this chair and I'm not making a difference, I'm not helping, I'm part of the problem, I shouldn't be sitting in this chair. So that's why I decided to run for the board again, and I will say this year has been, I like the direction we're going. I really like the direction we're going, and I like the things that are coming. I'm really excited about some of the decisions that we might be making, how the membership is sharing their thoughts and feelings with us. All of those things are really important. So, but as Preston said, it's a lot of time. I will be really honest and say there's no way I'd have been able to do this and work at the same time. Just no way. So.
Well, and I do want to say I'm so glad that you did decide to run. The benefit of having the tech side that you bring to the table that provides basically a resource for us on the board that we wouldn't have had without you. So I'm glad that you're willing to continue to step up to the plate. You're a great resource for us.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Director Collins, Steve Collins.
Hello, my name is Steve Collins. I moved here in 2009, and I started coming to the meetings. Excuse me. And 2015, I wanted to get automatic defibrillators, and I went up in front of the board, and they said, yeah, okay, sit down. And every month I go up there, same thing. And then, 2017 came along, and we were at the metal shop. We were getting flooded every time it rained. I mean, it'd come in the doors, and the people are out there working, And one lady's there one day, or she's standing in water, and she's got an electric power tool in her hand. She didn't notice it. So I'm complaining about it, and they wrote me up for being a nuisance. I got the letter in the thing saying if I didn't quit, I would be reprimanded. So that really upset me. So I said, okay, we'll keep going on this. And let me come back.
Okay, we'll come back.
I don't know
Well,
why I can't talk.
I do want to say that Steve has continued being a nuisance, and he doesn't want to quit, and he's doing a good job of doing that. I'm going to bypass me and jump over to our president, Tom Foster, and then I'll let John and I, because we're the newbies, be at the end. President Foster.
Well, thank you, sir. I'm assuming you really don't want to hear my life story, but what you might want to know is do not follow the retirement path that I took. When COVID hit, we were already full-time residents here, and I was working full-time. And we had all these plans of what we were going to do when we retired. And my spouse told me, she said, if you want to keep working, that'd be okay, because we're not going anywhere during COVID. So for better or worse, my organization kept pushing a sheet of paper in front of me every year going, just fill in that number and sign right there and stay another year. So I went from when I was 65 to when I was 70, working full time. At which time, though, I think perhaps by mutual agreement, I hope, we decided that's long enough. And so I retired from that. I managed pension plans and large institutional portfolios for, 30-some years. So that was basically what I was doing. But at that point, then there was a couple of months off where I fell into the same. Well, I was working on a couple committees, but then fell into the same group that Chris was in, as far as being appointed to a spot on the board in that March or April of 2024, I guess it was. And then amazingly ended up president before the end of that year, and then reelected here for a 3-year term, 2025 and the next 2 years. And at least for the time being, president again. Despite some of the comments you may have just heard, this is a good gig. Yes, there are days where you just wring your hands. I won't deny that. I've been sued several times now. Those are not good days. But I wouldn't. They're by far outweighed by the good days that are honestly enhanced by the camaraderie and the chemistry that this group has. And as was being explained by my predecessors there, yes, we argue, yes, we disagree, but we have a good chemistry in our ability to agree to disagree when necessary, make a decision, and then move forward and forget that one and move on to the next one. And I think that's one of the things that you could expect if you come onto the board, is that chemistry is pervasive. And at least I'm hoping that we can continue to cultivate that so that it continues going forward. Because there's some others who also have spoken here today That's not always been the case, unfortunately, but it is now, so it doesn't matter what it was in the past. We've worked very hard to get everybody generally behaving in a very professional and courteous manner so that we can continue to work together to advance the goals of Sun City as a whole and take care of the fiduciary responsibilities that board members have. So I would encourage you to seriously consider coming on the board. We're going to have 4 openings here this fall, some of which will probably, there are some incumbents here who will probably still try to run for some of those seats, but certainly there's going to be some opportunities there. So if that's an interest that you have and you're willing to work in the best interest of Sun City, we're interested in having you come aboard. So I hope that you will have good questions perhaps later, and that we'll be able to provide you with the information that you will need to make a positive decision to run and for the board and hopefully be successful at it.
Thank you. Our Treasurer, Anita Borski.
Okay, well, I come from a Midwestern background, Wisconsin. I worked at a university for 37 years and retired as the Director of Revenue, Liability, and Parking Services. Strange combination. I was in the hallway at the wrong time, I'm sure, and got a few new things assigned to me because I was in the hallway. So I've gone from dealing with impatient 18-year-olds to dealing with impatient 70-year-olds. So I'm right where I was 25 years ago. We snowbirded here for 12 years, and in 2019, we moved here permanently. And after a couple of years, I told my husband, I am bored to death. I need something to do. And I volunteered to be on the SAC committee. And I served on that committee and learned a lot, was amazed by a lot, couldn't believe a lot, and somehow met up with Steve, who convinced me I needed to run for the board. So I did. And I got a 1-year term my first year I ran, which was fine. My friends said to me, well, are you disappointed? And I said, well, no, I have a 1-year term. I can always run again, and I can walk away with dignity if I hate the thing. So the 1-year term wasn't a problem for me. And then last year I ran and received another 1-year term. This has probably been one of the most rewarding and satisfying and frustrating things I've ever done in my life. I've learned a lot. I know more about golf than I ever wanted to know. Way more about golf than I ever wanted to know. I have golfed. I hate it. I saw no great satisfaction in chasing a white ball across the grass, but that's okay. One thing I was really surprised of is the long hours, the amount of work that's involved, and the variety and the different things you get involved in. That Steve and his metal shop getting flooded, did I ever think I would be part of that solution? Never in my lifetime. I've served on the COC committee, which you know I've been on. Business and Finance. I serve as the treasurer of the board, which means I'm part of the Property Holding Committee. I'm part of the Bid Commission. Get involved a little bit with insurance and investments, and have banking authority. I get to sign the checks. I approve invoices over $10,000. So there's a big job in being the treasurer. And I also serve as a foundation president. And that is, we're trying to expand the foundation, so there's a lot of things going on there that it's become a job, and it's a job I enjoy. If you're selected for the board, I would just say keep an open mind, be ready for anything. You'll find this board is a great board. They've become family for me, close friends. And I've had a tough year, and had they not been there, I don't know where I'd be. And I want them to know I appreciate all of them. Sorry.
Yeah, you're
Sure.
fine.
That's all I have.
Thank you. John Brissett?
You're welcome to go first.
No, go ahead.
First, I'd like to thank all you people for coming.
Pull the mic up a little closer.
What's that?
Pull the mic up a little closer. We need to make sure we hear you.
We want to hear your lies.
Do you have to? Okay. Okay, well, first off, thank you all for coming today. Okay. Looks like a big crowd. Mine's kind of a shorter background I'll go through here. First off, I didn't go through Club Air Force, I went through the Army. Okay, and I retired out of the Army.
Jealousy's an ugly thing.
My turn, okay. No, I bought here back in 2013. I got tired of working for the state of California after I'd retired, so I retired out of the state of California, and then I came here, was having a wonderful time, enjoying golf. Somebody on the board, who wasn't on the board at the time, convinced me to get on the Golf Advisory Committee. So I did that, and I kind of enjoyed it, and found out more about the GAC and more about what was happening around and all. And then the opportunity came to join the board, and I went ahead and I applied, thanks to somebody. And I didn't receive a one-year appointment. I got sentenced to 3. Okay. But actually, it's been great. It really has, and I'm not going to reiterate everything, but everybody on the board works well together. We all see things a little bit differently. We all have our own flavor. And I would just ask that if you are selected and you get on the board, great, you come with an open mind, okay? And realize that there's, I don't know, somebody says 34,000 people here, 33,500 don't say a word, okay? You're only going to hear from a few. So you kind of got to do your own time. You kind of got to walk around to the clubs. You got to walk around to the golf courses, even if you don't like them, or the pickleball courts, and ask people what is good. I like asking the employees, hey, what do you like here? What don't you like here? And you get to know privately different things, not as a board member, but you just go out to find out. And it's that learning process that's been so great for me. Okay, and I think you've got to want to do it. 'Cause like today, everybody here, I think, has been here since 8 o'clock this morning, going through meeting after meeting after meeting, and that happens. So Tom's buying dinner tonight. It's going to be fine. Okay.
He said he was buying lunch, too.
He didn't show up.
Buy lunch.
So, but I look forward to, I'd hope yourself and we get several others to apply, okay? Because we need multiple people, and I hope the people that are currently on the board, they reapply and they come back to us, okay?
And we need that 9th person to buy lunch.
But there's and that's kind of my look at it. And if you're not happy doing it, you don't want to stay. It's going to be tough, but you got to have to be happy with it and enjoy yourself.
All right, I'll try
Thanks.
to finish.
What's that?
I'll try to finish.
Okay, go ahead and finish.
Okay, and I was saying the metal shop was flooding in 2017, so I continued to write it up and continued because I was vice president of the metal shop, and I got absolutely nowhere. In 2021, I ran for the board, and I got elected. I ran in 2015, but I didn't make it. But they said, you almost did, but you weren't allowed to know how many votes you got. So I got elected in 2021, and in 2022, I went back and I said, I want the flooding issue. And the GM came to me and said, why did you wait until 2022 to bring this to such a big issue? I said, because I now have the power. And he said, whether you like it or not, I'm on the board, and now I have enough votes where you're going to do something. So a lot of those years of fighting, it does help once you get here. You're still going to have to fight for things that you believe in. And the defibrillators came about, during that time. And one of the biggest things to me was I was sitting in the audience at a board meeting, and there was people up there, and they were they were screaming and swearing and cursing about something they didn't like. And I remember sitting in the audience and I said, if I can get on this board, I will never sit here and have that kind of talk in the audience against a member, a board member, or management. And I've tried very hard when I hear stuff like that happen to shut it down, because that was probably the worst thing a meeting I had ever gone to. Even in the fire department, we didn't have meetings that were that bad. And those guys can get pretty loud. And I know they said a lot of work didn't get done and we banked a lot of money. But a lot of them don't really know, but that was probably the greatest thing we could have done, because we didn't have the people that knew if a job was getting done, if they even cared if a job was getting done right. So it was good that they didn't do some of those jobs, because we would have been doing them again and we would have spent the money. But that's one thing we've changed. We've gotten people in there that are capable of some of these jobs, to be able to go out and to bid them, to look at them, and to get them done correctly. So that's a good thing. When I was on the fire department, along with being on there, I was also in charge of health and safety. So that's where the defibrillators come in, and other things that I've fought for here. You know, a lot of this is going to be common sense. Just, you know what's right, and sometimes you gotta just get it through that, you know, this is something that's right, and we need to do this. But I've been here, and a lot of times I don't want to come back. I don't want to do this, but then I do, you know, because you can't leave something that's not finished. And I think that's the way everybody up here feels, you know, and you're going to make it better, and you're going to fight, and you're going to try. So I'm glad you're here now, because now I can give you back the jobs that were given to me when your person retired. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. One of the things that Steve didn't say when he was talking about getting the defibrillators, that I'm kind of surprised you didn't bring up, he got those brought in, and we've had 4, as I understand it, 4 lives that have been saved because of the work and the press that he did to bring those here. And that's one of the things that there is a lot of work. I will say, for those watching, if you've emailed Tom Foster and haven't got a reply back, just let you know that he's been extremely busy, because we bury him with work, because he was willing to handle it. But the reward of actually being able to do something for our community is, to me, very rewarding. I'll be honest, when I didn't start looking at running for them, in fact, I had no interest in being on the board. I'd been involved in politics. That was enough. I've served my community over a decade. I was good to retire until the whole library situation that came up last year. And that was like, what's going on? And I'll be blunt, you know, looking at our spreadsheets, our finances last year, and what was going on with the board. And I ran, but I started wondering whether or not this was going to be a functioning group. And I got elected and came on. Now, you may not know me, but I am somebody that will share my viewpoint, as our board members know. I'll share my view regardless of whether everybody agrees with it or not. I have found that this group of people are really, truly committed, like I am, to what's good for our community. And that's one of the things that I had said even when I was running. If board members have their own agenda, that can be dangerous. If everybody has the agenda of the organization, that mission is our mission. We can have disagreements, but we're all working toward, and sometimes the disagreements, other views, help sharpen and refine and actually benefit our accomplishments to achieving that mission. And so I have found, one, that, again, we don't always agree, but we're committed to the same thing of benefiting our community. We're committed to the same thing of how can we improve things. And I think we're all committed to putting in the work and the effort that it takes. Now, and I'll plant this in your minds too as board members. If you could just bring out one thing that's been rewarding to you. For me, and I've been on multiple boards throughout Sun City. Just a lot of the boards, the majority of the boards in Sun City I've been on. One of the things I've always found is one of the greatest rewards I've had are the people I get to work with, the people I get to know. Now, with the rec centers, you also get weightlifting. You know, there's some physical benefit there. But the people that you get to work with and the people you get to know, and then the experience of seeing them put their skills and talents into the mix to better our community, for me is deeply rewarding, deeply rewarding. So I look back when I was thinking, you know, I don't want to serve on the rec center board. And it is work. It is work. But again, if you care about the community, if you want to contribute to the community, I think being on the board is one of the best places you can do that, as long as you're willing to commit and be willing to do the work. But for me, that's one of the most rewarding things. And if we can just go down, and you don't have to do it in order, but if anybody's got a idea or a view of what benefit have you gotten out of being a board member for the RCSC?
I have been surprised at how many times people have come up to me and thanked me for being on the board. Maybe 1 in 10 has a bitch. I'll listen to them. We talk about it, whatever. But I went to play pickleball 2 days ago, came out on the court, and the guy I'm playing with goes, "You're on the board." I said, "Yeah, I am." He goes, "Thank you, thank you, thank you. I watch you online, and I think you're doing an excellent job." And he watches every meeting we have online.
Mm-hmm.
He's never been there in person.
Mm-hmm.
But it was that I was so surprised, because that's the first time I've had people walk up to me and say, hi, Jim. I don't know you. How do you know? You see me on the TV.
Yeah.
But it was just particularly tickling.
And I think for all of us, the unsolicited thanks from people that you don't know that walk up to you is hugely one of the big reasons why it's worthwhile to do what we do. The thing I want to see that's going to be rewarding for me is for projects that we have started, that to see them actually get into going. You know, I'm really pleased with that we're moving forward on Mountain View, and that we're continuing, and there's a real sense from the board that we have to do this, and this is what's necessary for our community. You know, it's being able to see that the things that we have started as a group are starting to move forward, and with hopefulness that by the time I'm done with the board, some of them will actually be completed, so that, you know, you can look at it for the rest of the years and know that you had a part in making that happen and made our community a better place.
So for me, I would say that I have two things, I guess. Working with this group of people makes it worthwhile and rewarding in and of itself. But the number one thing would be when I am talking to members, or when I'm presenting something with members, when members talk to me, is that I see the click. I see, okay, I get where you're going and what you mean and what your purpose is, but also that they will come to me and they will give me something and they will trust me to take care of it. Given how our community has functioned, for any member to come up to a board member and trust them to do something for them is pretty significant. And I really feel like, and that speaks to the whole board, that they trust the board to come up and speak to them and say, hey, And they trust that it will get done. They trust that we're listening, I guess. And I think that's the big part, is that people believe I'm listening, they believe I care, and that's a reward for me, that trust and faith that people have. You don't always get that in life, so that's really important to me.
Yeah, when I ran in 2022, I went around and you go out and you meet the clubs. And I went down to the softball field and I met the guys. And they said, look at our clubhouse. And I went in there and stunk. It was really bad. So they said, if you get on the board, can you help us get a new clubhouse? And I said, how many members you got? And they told me, and I said, I'll do my best if I get on. Well, I got on and I got $1 million put into a budget for them, and it started to go through the planning. Well, then it came back, and because of COVID, everything was gone crazy, and it went from $1 million to $1.3 million. So then I had to get that 5th vote again to expand it $300,000. It took me 2 years. 2 years to get that 5th vote, but I finally got it, and it's built, and it's beautiful. So I'll remember that, that building. And the Mountain View, I was there for that one too, when they had the first thing down there, and it was so far above what we could afford. There was no way it could ever. We couldn't have gotten it for $27.3 million. So it's like, but they had the 5th vote, so there we go. And I was so happy when I came back and we got a new board that we could stop it, because it was not going to be anything that we could even afford. And we had to start over and fix it where it's something that it was within our reach, and also keep the members happy. And like Jim said, people come up. I work the bingo every Thursday night, the biggest charity raiser we have. And I get all these reports at bingo. I call Tom the next day. I got all these things about golf, about this, about that, because they will single me out at the bingo game just to tell me, and the COC. To me, I'm there for the clubs, and I try to help each and every club that comes to me if they have an issue. And when I started, we had 3 members on the COC. Now we have 16. And the people like to come to the committee because every single one of them, I make part of all decisions. I don't sit there with Anita and we don't make decisions. We ask all the members of the committee. They all have equal input. As a matter of fact, whenever we vote on things, like Anita and I, a lot of times just stay out of it and let them decide what they want to do. And it's a rewarding committee, and the people actually enjoy coming and working on it, so there's a lot of things where you can get enjoyment out of seeing what's going on, and it's behind the scenes, a lot of it, and a lot of people don't know, but there is good. And you can look back when you're done and say, I was part of that.
Tom?
There are tons of good things that come from serving on the board. But maybe one of the things that I could say to you that ended up being a very good thing, but it started as a very bad thing. And so we had not been on the board long when there was a concerted effort to impeach me, which was fine. The membership has the right to do that.
I was going to say, it wasn't just you.
Yeah, I had plenty of members or help in that. But where does this story go? So that's the bad part, I guess. But the good part was meeting those people that were behind that effort, compromising with those people, talking with those people, reaching an understanding of, why this happened or why that happened, and getting a mutual understanding of why things go the way they go. And eventually, not only did that impeachment effort fail, but those people that were behind that email me all the time, because we've built a mutually agreeable type of relationship that we can trust one another to be frank with issues. And as ugly as that was when it first started, and as angry as probably they were, and as angry as many of the board members were, at the end of the day, that turned out to be really a pretty positive experience, because we just didn't sit there. We quietly, behind the scenes, met with people, worked with people, explained things with people, and today we're reaping some of those benefits. And I think, if there's, it's terrible to say that one of my crowning achievements is avoiding being impeached. But more importantly is building a relationship with folks that went from, I want your head on a stick, to, oh, you're a decent human being, and I think that's a mutual thing both ways. So I think that is perhaps one of the more rewarding things that in my short stint here that I've had. And I hope not to go through that again. But it's still, there are so many things, and I know you listen and folks talk about the time requirements and this and that, and I think you get short shift how much value and satisfaction you do get from serving on the board. And I personally find it extremely rewarding, and hope that if you get the opportunity to serve, that you would find it as rewarding as I have.
Yeah, and if I can interject too, I think that's one of the things that I'm so thankful that we are recording this, because when you're in the community and all you're hearing is the stuff that comes up in a meeting, and you don't see behind the scenes because you're not on the board, you're not interfacing with the people that are kind of in the mix. A lot of our residents don't understand those relationships that have been built and ties that have been strengthened. So I appreciate you bringing that up, because, yeah, just like they say, in Chinese, it's the crisis is the same as an opportunity. The word means the same. There are things that the general public in Sun City does not appreciate, the things that go on behind the scenes that are actually beneficial, building and growing. And so I appreciate you bringing that hard point up and the good that came out of it.
Well, two things that I'll take away from the board that I've learned and I'll take with me is, I now completely understand the 3-cart rule and 5 stones on a golf course. I hope I forget that someday, but I do understand it now. No, it's the members. You will learn that you are no longer anonymous. I've been in the grocery store and have been stopped and had half-hour conversations with my ice cream melting. I've had, pardon the description, a little old man say, my wife is gone, but I like listening to you. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, if it makes him happy, I'm happy. The bad part that it's becomes good, but it starts out bad, is the people that don't trust you. And you have to work at that. And when you finally get them to turn around, or you explain something and you see the light come on, it's really feels good that you got somebody to understand the real story and forget the rumor. And we all deal with rumors every day. You just have to learn to live with them. I don't regret a single thing that's happened on this board. We've had some really tough decisions to make, but we've made them, and I think we've made the right decisions. The one thing that I did forget to tell you before is that when you are on the board, you will also have an assignment to an outside organization in Sun City. The Posse, the fire department, Sun City Can, there's 6 or 7 organizations. And that is really rewarding because you find out what they do, they find out what you do, and you also find out how you can work together. And that has really been rewarding.
John, you got something to add?
Oh, yes.
I'm sure in these short months, you've got something that has been beneficial for you.
Well, like all of them.
I mean, you got to know me, so that's right there, that's pretty cool.
Wow, set himself up.
Can't top that one.
Like everybody here, and they've all said it, it's kind of neat when somebody walks up to you and say, "Hey, aren't you on the board?" And I go, "Yes, I'm Preston." It works out real good.
That's why they're all mad at me.
But I guess I've enjoyed a lot of my time with the Golf Advisory Committee, and Preston runs it, and how everybody on that committee works so hard to actually make golf good and affordable for the community. But I'm on the foundation, and that's probably been the biggest shock in my life, going out to interview people. If I don't know if you're familiar, but the foundation does pay people's assessments of up to $650. And I went out on one, and then another, and I got to go with Steve who, to train me. And I've been out on my own, and I went to one the other day and talked to the gentleman. And I'm not going to put out numbers, but it's phenomenal how little some people have, and they try so hard. And knowing that the board was would go along with him, he asked me, "Do you think I can get anything towards this paid?" And I said, "Well, sir, if I have my way, we're going to go for the whole enchilada, and we're going to pay it for you." And he started crying, and he said, "Can I hug you?" Okay, and that was kind of a cool thing, and I've been out more since, and I think Steve is and Anita. It's a great organization that somehow we need to find ways to get more grants for that. We need to find ways to get donations to it, and we need to help these folks, okay? They're doing the best with what they've got, and I just think helping them has been a phenomenal time for me.
We have approximately 10% of our population is below poverty level. And there are people living in this community that are living on $600, $700 a month. I don't know how they do it. I have absolutely no idea how they do it. We have people that are eligible to go to a food bank and get food, but they can't get there. It is really sad when you meet some of these people. We delivered gift cards last Christmas, and I had a gentleman just sob. He couldn't hold it back anymore, that he could eat now. He could eat for January and February. The foundation is a subsidiary of RCSC. We exist completely to support RCSC. And the program John's talking about is where we interview applicants that are under the 150% poverty level and do the best we can do to pay their fee assessments so that they can be active in the community and take advantage of the things that we offer. We're also doing other things. We're looking at expanding into receiving grants and possibly someday get $1 million grant to build a, I don't know, what are we building? There's some things that I mentioned. What?
The handicapped.
Oh, yes. We did apply for a grant for wheelchairs for our handicapped people in the swimming pools. So there's all kinds of things that we can do, programming, different things. Didn't want to take the view away from the foundation, but just wanted you to know what it's about.
Steve, did you?
Yeah, I had one thing Tom brought when he was speaking. It reminded me, I've been here longer than anybody. So the one thing I've seen, when my first year on, Karen McAdam got fired. And she was fired at a June meeting, and I thought the people were going to go nuts at the board meeting. And I told, I said, this isn't a good thing. The people are not going to like this. Well, come September, now everything festered all summer long. And we came in and we had armed guards in the Sundial Auditorium. And they said, if things get out of hand, we'll have a code word, and we'll all run out the back of the stage and out to your cars. The police will escort you out. Well, they brought in the replacement for her, swore him in, and then the president closed the meeting. And people were screaming and yelling, and the whole board got up and ran off the stage. And I remember I was sitting there, and I looked around, and I said, oh, well, I guess, what do you guys want to talk about? So afterwards, they said to me, why didn't you leave? I said, my wife was in the front row. But,
We will do our best to never have that happen again.
And because of that, I learned a little bit about reading the community and how they're going to act on some things. And I think that helps a little bit in knowing what they're going to do. Matthew, he didn't read them or didn't want to. And so he never mended any bridges that he scorched. And I think that was part of the problem. You have to be able to fix things. And that's one thing we have done better. We've learned from our mistakes. We know we can get up there and say we made a mistake. We're not afraid to admit we make mistakes. And I think that's helped us a lot.
I was kind of wondering how he was going to go from that and transition into recruiting people for the board. But things have changed now. Again, this was meant to be very relational. Do we have any questions for any of our board members? Anybody want to put Tom on the spot? Well, we just got a couple minutes before 4, and as I understand it, we got till 4 to, or shortly after, till 5 for packets. So
4 o'clock, yeah.
Yeah. So if anybody needs to go down and get a packet.
You got to ask.
I do want to let, again, the community that may be watching this video, I think what you've seen is just who we are as board members. We'll kid around, we'll be honest, we share different things, we're human, but we care about Sun City. And so those are really the qualifications you need if you're human. If you're not human, don't apply. But if you're human, if you care about Sun City, if you're willing to serve and make a commitment, we're interested in talking with you. So feel free to contact us. Send all your emails to Tom Foster. No, you can send them to me because I'm the chair of the election committee. Or Marcia gets them all anyway. She's our heavy worker here. She does all the hard work around here. But anyway, thank you guys for coming, for showing up, and for all those that watched, thank you very much, and appreciate your participation. Thank you all.
We give his phone number to anybody on the foundation that can't get their groceries.
I do want to say, and this is kind of a part, so whether it's recorded or not, I do want to say that, hearing about the foundation, I was on the CAN board, well, since its inception until a few years ago. We sent out the rebates from EPCOR, the EPCOR water, and they were usually widows. And I actually had a neighbor that was a widow. Her and her husband moved to Sun City. They had a furniture company. They were well-to-do, retired here. Stock market went down. He ended up getting Alzheimer's. It devastated them financially, and then she was living on less than $1,000 a month. Usually it's the widows, but we would send out these basically just the little rebates, less than $25, $23, $24 for a 3-month period. And the cards we would get in were heartbreaking. They were just, oh, thank you so much. I mean, it was like we gave them a $1,000 bill. Thank you so much. It means so much to us. There are a lot of, we've got everything from multimillionaires to people like that in Sun City, in our community. So I just want to also add in for the Rec Center Foundation, it is a worthwhile cause to make donations to. And so that's apart from being on the board, that's just me to whoever's listening. It's a worthwhile cause. We care about the people, whether they've got a lot of money or not. And again, I've always conducted my adult life, treat others the way I'd want to be treated. You know, if we were in that situation, I think we'd appreciate that. So again, if you have any extra donations, the Showa Foundation is, or Rec Center, sorry, sorry, the Rec Center Foundation is a great place to put it.
Rick, are there any questions for us?
Well, that's what I'd asked. Oh, did you have a question?
No. Do you have any questions?
No, that's why I was asking if there was any questions, and I didn't see any heads nodding. I saw no, so.
And we really need to keep Marcia busy, so please come in and get your packets.
Yeah, we don't want her sitting around bored.
That'll happen.
Well, one of the things we do as a board members, we make sure she's not bored because we dump stuff on her. Okay. Well, thank you for the board members. Thank you for taking the time. And as I said, you know, yeah, we've been in meetings since 8:30 this morning, pretty much all day. So thank you guys for being willing to share your time. It's another way that you contribute to the community. So thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody.
Put this in the time capsule.
This is a copyrighted production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.